Hello, everybody. Good morning. Hello and welcome to another edition, episode number 29 of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. My name is Jim, and joining me, as always, renowned hitting instructor, friend, professional evaluator, former coach, co-host, Jake Epstein. Jake, good morning. How are you? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you.
Is everything going well?
Everything's going well, yeah. I'm in Denver. I head back to Texas tomorrow. So it's I timed it right. The weather in Colorado's been like in the 70s for the last week. And I think it's going to snow tomorrow. So I'm sneaking out just in time.
Yeah. We've gotten great feedback just based off the numbers I saw from last week's episode talking about the Cubs and their World Series victory, Game 7. Be sure to check that out in the archives. It was a great look back 4 years ago to a special moment, certainly in baseball history. Let's do some inventory, though, from last week's show before we get into today's topic. I was actually perusing MLBTradeRumors.com this week, and they had a write-up about...
One of my favorite sites.
Yes, every day I check it. And they had a write-up about potential landing spots for Kris Bryant. We discussed him in length in last week's episode, showcasing that Cubs win in Game 7 in the Fall Classic.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about how he might not end up with the Cubs long-term. And I was reading the website, and they discussed possible landing spots. The Nationals, Braves, Dodgers, Tigers, Blue Jays could be one as well. And they all laid out their cases as to why Kris Bryant would be a fit. And I encourage everybody to read that story. But where do you think he'll actually end up?
Oh, that's a really good question. I do think the Braves could be a pretty good spot for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I would probably lean towards Washington. I think, they have the budget. They're not as, they're trying to fill that that void that, that was left last year,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like that would be a good spot. It's a pretty big market. I think he'd be happy there.
Yeah.
I think he, he's a quality player in that he's going to hit. He's going to put up some numbers. He is injury prone, which is somewhat of a problem, giving somebody a long-term deal, but he plays multiple positions. If you need to throw him in the outfield, you can, you can throw him at third, you can throw him at first base. If he's hobbling around a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
he's, super athletic. So I think that would be a pretty good pickup, the fact that, Rendon left and, that was a big part of their success. I think they need to fill that void.
Yeah. Well, he does have 1 year left before he is a free agent. They could trade for him, but then I wonder, will he leave in free agency? You already gave up a lot for him. So that's the one risk that I guess you take as the Nationals organization going forward, where the Braves have more an embarrassment of riches in the minor leagues. They can afford that.
They can afford that. I think you have to have a deal in place if you're going to make that trade.
Yeah.
I don't think he's worth, Lindor. That might be something a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
with, Lindor being traded and getting prospects. I think Bryant, you are going to get some prospects for him, but it would have to be a lockup. He's not a loner.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a loner kind of guy. It wouldn't make sense to me. It's not like he's a guy in the back end of the bullpen or a starting pitcher you're trying to ride and get some magic going for the postseason. I think this is, a guy that's going to go early and try to find a place and maybe have a, kind of like a Betts, right? Where it was, we know he's going to come here and he's going to sign here. So we'll give up some prospects to do it a year early. Otherwise, I think they'll just wait for the open market for him.
Yeah. What's your opinion on the legacy of Theo Epstein? For those who haven't been following, let me add some context. There's a substantial amount of evidence that he'll be leaving the Cubs and stepping down from his position as president of baseball operations after the 2021 season. He's been quoted as saying that there's always a 10-year place that was put in motion. And when he first took the Cubs job a decade earlier, last decade, that after 10 years, he was gone. And it's been a success, right? I mean, he's won a World Series, but you could make the argument, and some people there's been whispers across baseball that while he turned the culture of the organization around in Chicago, there's a segment of people who believe that maybe he could have done more, and there are some stones that were left unturned. So what do you think his legacy in Chicago will be?
I think he brought a world championship to a mark or to a town that hasn't had one in a
Yeah.
really long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did the same thing in Boston. It's not easy to win a World Series. Like I really feel that, Cubs fans and Yankee fans and even Dodger fans, they have this, expectations that, oh, we're going to win a World Series every year.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that easy to win a World Series. These are really smart guys, and with the technology and analytics that are going on, it somewhat levels the playing field, between different organizations, especially top tier organizations. So I think unfortunately there is a little bit of a sour taste in his mouth, because they really haven't gone deep into the postseason, recently. But you know what? They got a World Series. He turned it around. He did what he said he would do and why they brought him in. And he'll go somewhere else and be successful. I do think it's stale now. I think it's time for him to find a new place and a new position, a new challenge, I would say, for him. But I think he did his job. Okay. I really do. I think they've contended and they've done very well, and they have rings. And I think that, more than anything else, that's what matters. I mean, look at the amount of teams that, have never won a World Series. I know the Cubs, it's been a long time, but I mean, it's very, very difficult. When was the last time we had, the Dodgers won this year, and my memory is getting worse now, but I mean, when was the last time we had two teams win a World Series within a 5-year span? Like, have we had that recently? I'm trying to rack my brain.
No.
I mean, we had the Red Sox, maybe. They beat the Rockies and then for their second World Series, right?
Well, that was 2007, 2013, so there's a 5-year period there.
Okay.
And 6-year period, and then in 2018, that's a 5-year period. But they're also they're different circumstances.
We had the Giants, right?
The Giants
won it every other year for a while, but it's just not happening lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last 5 years we're not seeing that. So I think obviously our DNA test probably crossed paths somewhere, me and Theo on 23andMe.
Maybe.
So, I'm never going to say anything bad about, and I mean, there's one Epstein that I would probably prefer was, not mentioned in any of the history books, but he's no longer with us.
Yes.
We try to keep our distance from that guy, that last name. Yikes. Theo's all right.
I hope people know who we're talking about. I won't say the name, but I hope people know who you're talking about. They arguably had the worst World Series hangover, though, of any team that won a championship in the last 10 years. That was in 2017 I'm talking about. I mean, they underperformed so drastically. It's really a shame. And since then, it's been a roller coaster ride, sort of straight down. I mean, in 2019, they didn't even make the postseason. This year, they made it, but they lost again in, was it the wild card round or was it the division series? Nevertheless, they exited really early.
Yeah.
So that's
and that happens. A lot of teams exited really early.
Yeah. Switching gears here, I've been catching up on some reading. I'll show you the book I have here. Let's see. Swing Kings. We talked about this on a few episodes back. And I'm on, I don't know what chapter I'm on, actually. Look here. Hold on. I'm on page 100, for those who've read Swing Kings. I just got done the chapter, actually, about Chris Bryant and his dad, Mike Bryant. Oh, chapter 5, Bobby Tewksbury, with an A. You remember him, Bobby Tewksbury, right?
Yeah.
So I was reading something here, and it brought to light a drill that was being taught, and to a kid named Chris Colabello. He played in, you know who I'm talking about? Okay, good. He played in independent ball, and he worked with Bobby Tewksbury with an A, not the Bobby Tewksbury you may be thinking of, but Bobby Tewksbury with an A.
Yeah, he's a hitting coach back east. Right?
Yes. So anyway,
school in the Northeast. Yeah.
So anyway, I have an excerpt here I want to read to you, and this drill reminds me of something you taught me many, many years ago, and I think you still teach your students this. He taught the humming drill. It was a humming drill. It was kind of a mental cue. And it was basically to keep the swing, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it was basically to keep the swing going and not to stop. So this is what it says. So the pitcher delivered as the first pitch, a cutter. Colabello hummed quietly but loud enough for the catcher to hear him. Thwack. He launched Colabello a home run. Next to bat, sinker. The pitcher's name was Leverton. Doesn't really matter. Don't know who that is. But again, Colabello, thwack. A double. Third at bat, same thing. Thwack. Laced a line drive. Okay, so in that game, he ended up getting 4 hits. That thwack or humming, A-Rod's talked about it too. That humming part of hitting, that's kind of like the yes, 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 no type drill or type approach mentally to get yourself locked in with the swing, right? And sort of keep the swing going and have that momentum. I guess it sort of makes things easier and slows things down for a hitter mentally. Am I kind of on point with that?
Yeah, it just clears the brain out.
Okay.
You know, it puts you in a calming place. It's a clearing the mechanism, you know, so to speak, kind of ritual that most players, you know, some players need to have, you know, some players have naturally, some players don't think about any of that. So it's very interesting to see, you know, it would be interesting to see how long did he use it. So somebody gave me a golf tip once playing golf, and he said, smile when you're putting. You can't be tense when you're smiling. I was like, God, it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
So I putted really well that day. And then the next day I tried smiling, or the next time when I putted, and I putted terrible. And guess what? I've never smiled when I putted again. But I still tell that story. So, you know, you have to stick with something. You know, if there's something that works. He may have hummed. That may have been the only 4 hits he ever got when he was humming. Or maybe he still doesn't. Like, it's part of his routine. So you never know. Like, people have their own ways to clear the mechanism, their own ways to center themselves and put themselves, you know, in that circle, in that environment, you know, in that batter's box. And obviously that was his, and that's where it worked.
Yeah. So, but it's very similar to the yes, 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 no mental cue that you use, correct? I mean, they're pretty much in the same family. I would
say they're in the same family. I think the yes, 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 no. I mean, you're not mentally thinking that every single pitch,
right?
You know, it's in there. That's your mindset. Yes, 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 no. But I don't think the little guy in your head is saying that every single time. Unless you're in, you know, a little funk where you're starting to take a lot of pitches. But I think that's just a reminder, like, okay, I'm aggressive. You know, it's like what I always used to tell my players, you know, in college was every pitch is a strike until it's not. You know, every pitch is your pitch. Every pitch is a fastball right down the middle. You have to have that mindset, and then we adjust from there. But if you're caught like, I don't know what it's going to be, oh, that's a good pitch to hit, and then you're a tick late, you know, then it's like, shame on you.
Yeah. All right, well, good stuff. Let's get into the topic. And before we do, I got an email this week from the lab, BCS, and I want to know what is going on this week at the lab. You're heading back to Texas tomorrow, so obviously you're going there for a reason, and I know what it is. Yeah. What's going on at the lab this week?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know the email that went out. No, we got all kinds of craziness. We had, what did we have? We had a tournament this weekend. You know, we had softball tournaments out here. It was so great. One of my former students from Colorado is now coaching a youth travel team, and they were playing in a tournament. Happened to be in College Station. And she was able to take her team to the lab, and they trained, and they got to use all the technology. It was really cool. So we're going to do some maxing this week.
Very good.
With all of our players. So maxing, you know, with everything, you know, pitch recognition, we're going to be, you know, maxing with, you know, T exit velocity. We'll max with machine, you know, high exit velocity. We'll also be having consistency training. So, you know, out of, you know, say 15 or 20 pitches, how many of those do we barrel? So we need to find barrel consistency. I love the fact that guys can load up and swing super duper hard and hit the ball as hard as they possibly can with their eyes closed. But how does that convert into consistency? So if we have a machine out there throwing sliders or throwing fastballs with some sink, you know, at 85 miles an hour, how many of those are you finding a barrel on? So the hit tracks, you know, we can say, oh, well, your normal max exit velocity is, or your normal high exit velocity is, say, 90 miles an hour. If you're within 2 to 3 miles an hour of that, we're going to consider that a barrel. If it's outside of that, it's not a barrel. So then we'll be able to chart these. We call it a max week, but it's a testing week. We're going to chart that, every month going forward for our players. And we do a pretty good job at that now, but we're gonna take it a couple steps further with the maxing, because we've pretty much, our memberships are like through the roof. So football just ended, and now we got to create more classes, which is exciting for all of us that we're growing so well.
Yeah. So log on to labbcs.com, check out all the price packaging, and go out and see Jake for his excellent hitting instruction. Yes. The
definitely
top-notch hitting instruction, no doubt about that. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast as well. Find us on social media. New episodes every Monday at 9 a.m. at Jim Tara, at Epstein Hitting on Twitter and Instagram. And email us your questions, concerns, topic ideas, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. And check out our YouTube page, The Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast, with full archived episodes and some clips from previous episodes. Okay, let's get into today's topic, episode number 29, talking about different approaches in different types of counts. And I want to pull up a picture here on my computer, and I want to share it with you, Ep, and everybody else. These numbers are from 2016, a split for each count. So first pitch, batters hit on average at the major league level. In 2016, 347, 1-0 count, 356, 2-0 count, 346, 3-0 count, 385, 0-1 count, 320, 1-1 count, 334, 2-1 count, 337, 3-1 count, 369. I guess those numbers aren't really too surprising. I'm a little bit surprised by the 1-1 count. Although, no, I'm actually really not that surprised. 0-1 count, yes, a little bit, but 1-1, not so much. 0-2 count, 150, 1-2 count, 165, 2-2 count, 179. Full count, I'm a little bit surprised by this, 212. What numbers? I know I rattled off a lot of numbers there. Are you surprised by the full count number, though, 212? I thought that'd be a little bit higher. And are you surprised by any other number? I mean, maybe the 0-1 count maybe is a little surprising, but nonetheless.
0-1 count's definitely surprising to me.
Yeah.
I would think that would be a lot lower. Mm-hmm. The full count is surprising as well.
Yeah.
But it's not surprising in the fact that pitchers give in a lot more. Mm-hmm. They're not throwing 3-2 fastballs anymore.
Yeah.
So to me, that's not they're not using that as a hit. That's not an advantageous hitter's count anymore. It's still a 2-strike count.
Yeah.
So I would say, what was the difference between 2-2 and 3-2?
So the 2-2 count, let me pull that back up. The 2-2 count was 179. 1-2 count 165, okay. 2-2 179, full count 212.
Yeah. So not, there's still what? It's still better at 3-2 than it is at 2-2, but it's not like a 2-1 count or a 2-0 count. So that's surprising to me. Those averages are actually a lot higher.
Yeah.
All the way around, even in advantageous counts, than I would have thought. So what it tells me is when you have 2 strikes, you're getting hammered. Right?
Yes.
2 strike counts are very low to offset, counts where you're advantageous. So to me as a hitter, you have to know yourself and, don't get to 2 strikes.
Right.
What's the best way? And that's what comes into, what's the right philosophy, right? We talked about this, may have been last week or so, but do we get this pitcher deep into the count? Do we get this pitcher deep into the game? Well, pitchers don't throw more than like 6 innings anymore, right? So a lot of times they throw 4 or 5 innings. So getting his pitch count up isn't going to do you any good. That's not really where the game is right now. It was, maybe 4 or 5 years ago and before that. So now it's like, okay, do we attack this guy earlier in the count? Mm-hmm. Like we know we got to get him early. And is that the mindset? Is that the approach heading into that game? But if the guy's got really good stuff, mm-hmm. and he's he's able to throw changeups and sliders on the first pitch or the first 2 pitches, and we're over aggressive, then we're giving into him. So it's just what makes this game so beautiful. It's adapting on the fly. It's knowing what kind of stuff that guy has and having the right plan and approach to attack him that day. Mm-hmm. And then as a hitter, knowing your strengths, are you a guy that swings early in the count? You're really good at it. Do it. If you're not, don't do it.
This game's really
But then all of a
complicated.
sudden, what's that?
This
Yeah,
game's really complicated. It
it
really
is.
is. And the chart, I think, explains that. I want to bring up another number to you. The 2-2 count on base percentage is 184. It jumps when it's a full count from 184 to 452, the on-base percentage. The slugging jumps from 280 when it's 2-2 count to 361 with a full count. And with the OPS, it jumps from 464 with a 2-2 count to 814 with a full count. And that's the best OPS in a count since a 2-1 count at 907. So maybe the batting average is a little bit deceiving for everybody.
Yeah, it might be. Well, it also tells you that the OPS is high because guys are walking too, right?
Right.
So maybe their pitchers aren't giving them great pitches to hit. So maybe it's one way or the other. There's either a guy challenging them with a fastball or they're trying to throw an out pitch, 3-2, right? And that could be situation based too, like it's first base open.
Yeah.
Is it early in the game?
Yeah.
Is it late in the game? Is it a blowout?
Yeah.
Is it not a blowout? So everything situation-wise could change. Like a 3-2 count when your team is losing by 4 runs, okay.
Yeah.
Or you're up by 4 runs,
yeah.
It doesn't really mean anything. Okay, I'm going to throw a fastball here. But in a tight game where the guy on deck is struggling, all of a sudden maybe you're going to throw a breaking pitch in that situation instead of a fastball.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the simple approach, though, with the batting averages being so high early in counts to be aggressive early in the count and attack first and second pitches, correct?
That is where I would lean.
Yeah. But there's more to it, right? But there's a lot more elements to it than just kind of saying, okay, we're going to swing it, we're going to be as aggressive as we can early in the count.
Yes, because you still have to make sure he's throwing strikes early in the count.
Yeah.
If he's flipping breaking balls early in the count that aren't hangers, or we're not in a position to hit that, then maybe don't do it. But I'll tell you what, if I'm a fastball hitter, I'm looking for a fastball early in the count. The first 2 or 3 pitches, I'm going to attack that thing.
Yeah.
And if it's a breaking ball, then hopefully I pick it up and I can abort that swing and not swing at it.
Yeah, just kind of.
But
spin on
I'm ready. I'm ready to hit. Those are going to be the best pitches I'm going to see against like Walker Buehler. That would be a good kind of a template that he attacks guys early in the count. Remember, strikeout pitchers try to get ahead.
Yeah.
So guys that are trying to blow you away, they got to get ahead within the first couple pitches, and they're going to challenge you there.
So this is where I guess the analytics and data, though, really comes into play, where it's certain things telling you and kind of shaping your approach as a hitter, as a club, offensively, to tell you maybe, hey, we got to be aggressive against this guy. And I guess it varies analytically from each pitcher, from Walker Buehler to a Clayton Kershaw, who has that. I don't know. I guess he has that propensity to throw a breaking ball, right? Early in counts. Where Walker Buehler, I watched a lot of him in the postseason. Not so much. He will pound that fastball, and he will throw you a fastball early in counts. So that's where the approach kind of changes. But maybe the common denominator is still to be aggressive, but just sort of have that approach of maybe looking for a different type of pitch, depending on who it is.
Having selective aggressiveness, right? So with Buehler, you're aggressive on fastballs early in the count. Maybe with Kershaw likes to finish a lot with that cutter, right? He likes to throw that cutter later in there and jam you, So maybe with him, you look for changeups or curveballs earlier in the count. Again, I don't study his data, so I don't know. But, those are the kind of things that you need to look for as a hitter. Like sometimes, within the first 3 pitches, I'm going to get a hanger.
Yeah.
Like he's going to throw a breaking pitch to try to fool me. I'm going to sit on that breaking pitch because I know I'm going to get it within the first 3 pitches.
Yeah.
And maybe that's your mindset. Like you're attacking. That is a high powered infrared scope.
Yeah.
It's not a broad from 1,000 yards, right? This is not a broad. Oh, I'm going to hit a fastball. It's like I know I'm going to get every time I face him. I know I'm going to get a breaking ball early in the count. I'm going to look for that thing to to whatever pop, whatever his arm action is. If it's different, I can pick it up. I know I see that breaking ball. I'm going to sit on it. If he throws anything else, I'm going to take it. But when he throws me that breaking ball, I'm going to be right on it.
Yeah. So then basically the pitch selection part is having that plan, knowing if I get that pitch, I'm not going to miss it. And that's
I'm not going to miss it.
yeah.
And maybe the count's 0-1. Maybe he throws a fastball on the first pitch. Great, 0-1.
Yeah.
And then maybe the next pitch is, a cutter in, right? And then the third pitch there is that curveball, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm going to get it. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to waver. This is my plan. And a lot of times that's hard to trust. A lot of times you just start changing that. Oh, maybe he'll throw me this here. Maybe he'll throw me that here. But if you have a plan and you're comfortable with it, then stick to it. Your first at bat. That things may change as the situation of the game unfolds.
Yeah.
Maybe how you got pitched your first time up. Now all of a sudden I'm going to make adjustments, or maybe all of a sudden we're going to tie game in the 7th inning. Okay, well that might change. What I'm trying to do here. Maybe I'm trying to move a runner over. There's so many different scenarios to change your approach as a hitter within a game that you have to be smart. You just can't get in the box and expect to hit.
Yeah. You've talked earlier on previous episodes about how you would tell your hitters in college about a certain approach, give them some ideas, and they would just take the pitch that they were supposed to swing at. It can be very. You've mentioned it before, and it seems like it can be very frustrating to get guys to understand. You got to not let this pitch go. You got to get this pitch and not let it get by you. And if you do that, if you let that pitch get by, that changes everything. The whole approach, because now you're maybe in the hole 0-1 when you should have attacked that pitch. Correct?
It's going to definitely affect what's going to happen after, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you still sit on it? Certain people can still be like, okay, that was just one pitch.
Yeah.
I'm still going to throw me another one, right? Or, maybe he's going to try to sneak a fastball here. But yes, you can't get frustrated when that happens. As a coach, you get frustrated when that happens. The old saying goes, you can lead them to water, right? But you can't make them drink. And players will learn with experience, and they'll learn as they get older. Hopefully they get to get older and keep playing, right? And they'll eventually learn and be like, oh, that old crusty son of a gun up, he was right.
Yeah.
That I shouldn't have, I could have been, great at that time. But that's where hitting coaches, we talked about experience, right? And having that wisdom, that's where a lot of the big league hitting coaches are so great, because they have that approach. They have that mental side of what is that pitcher trying to do. They have a feel for the game that a stat rat or somebody chasing analytics numbers, they won't have that. They'll have other very good qualities, but they may not have that in-game wisdom or feel for the game that, those guys that, have 3,000 at bats under their belts in the big leagues, might have.
Yeah. Okay. Let's shift gears here. 0-2 count. And a guy this is your first or second at bat against a starter, and a guy has 4 different pitches that he can throw over for any time. I guess to add more context, we'll just say it's high-level Division I for now. And then we can maybe move on to the pro side. But high-level Division I, SEC pitcher, he's got at least 3 pitches he can throw any point in the count, and a 4th pitch that he's developing, but it's still pretty nasty for the collegiate level. You're down the count 0-2. What's the approach there? What are you looking for? How do you still give yourself a shot to beat this guy when the numbers say that there's a low probability you may do that?
So we must be facing Vanderbilt. That sounds
fair.
Like somebody they would have.
We'll go to Vanderbilt,
or Georgia, where they got some arms. I would probably pretend like I had something in my contact lens.
Okay. And then
to try to break the inertia of that pitcher that got me 0-2.
Yeah.
Maybe step out a little bit, take a breath, maybe try to mess with him. Oh, my lens, I got some dirt in there. Okay, now, and maybe I'm thinking about what I need to do. So when I'm in defensive mode, again, it depends on the situation of the game, right? I mean, I got maybe the infield's back. There's runners on second and third, or all I got to do is put a ball in play. All I have to do is put a ball in play. Like a little ground ball is going to get a run in. Betts is on third. Who sets the record for the greatest jumps ever?
Yes.
From third, but God, is he instinctual and prepared? Anyway, I would usually look for the out pitch. Okay, so I'm looking for that slider. I'm looking for that curveball, which is going to be slower. Okay, so by it being slower, it's telling me I need to wait longer. Okay, so if I need to wait longer, I need to slow my rhythm down. That's the way we work on it when I'm training players. We're going to slow our rhythm down.
Sure.
And if he throws us 95 on the inside part of the plate, we're going to lose. Okay. But if he throws us that out pitch and we're letting everything travel a little bit more and we're kind of anticipating slower with break, we're going to have a better chance to hit that breaking pitch that is his out pitch. Or more importantly, we won't chase it. Because if we're looking for something that's a little bit slower and that's breaking, we're going to make sure it doesn't start out down. Because if it starts out down, it's going to be in the dirt. So we're looking for something to start out at our chest, and we're going to be able to hit it. Now, again, if we're looking for something that starts out at our chest, the guy throws 95-mile-an-hour fastball at our chest, we're probably going to chase that pitch, right?
Right.
And then, we're going to lose. But we're not going to lose on that pitcher's best pitch. Okay. And then you can trace it back to, this is why every team strikeouts like, 10, 11 times a game.
Yeah.
Right. Because of situations like this, you're 0-2 with a guy that throws really good pitches. So then I would have a conversation is remember that, that 0-1 fastball you took.
Yeah.
That was the pitch you should have hit that at bat.
Okay. Yeah. But yes,
I'm in a defensive mode. I mean, for the most part, I'm in a defensive mode. Yeah. If there's runners on base that I can either move up or score. Now, if there's a runner on first and there's 2 outs, maybe I'm still looking for that slider, but I'm not looking to just put it in play. I'm looking to drive this thing in the gap with one swing and hopefully hit a double to drive that runner in from first. And if I fail, I make it out. But hitting a single there doesn't do us any good. Hitting a single with a runner on first. That brings up the next guy, but this pitcher's still a stud, right? So we saw it in the playoffs. You got to hit extra bases. You got to hit home runs. You got to get a walk and a double or a walk and a home run or a couple. You have to take advantage of that one pitch. So what I'm banking on there with a runner on first base and 2 outs is I'm looking for, even though I have 2 strikes, I'm still looking to drive a ball. And if I strike out, I strike out. But I'm looking to hit a double somewhere. I'm still looking for, probably hit that off-speed pitch. But I'm going to drive that thing into the opposite field gap. That's my mindset versus I'm just trying to put it in play. I'm letting it get super deep and I'm really defensive. Maybe I'm choking up. I'm not going to have that in a different situation.
Right. Now, have we lost?
Or Seager might.
I mean, you mentioned, though, like he chokes up on the bat, right? I mean, and you mentioned choking up on the bat there. Have we lost that, though? We've lost that art of situational hitting. Is that why maybe the game isn't as pleasurable for the viewer? But is that why we have so many strikeouts? There's a lot of questions that we can branch off to. But do you think we've launched that approach?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, I would say the Dodgers were the best situational hitting team by far I saw all year.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they took bad swings with guys on third base and they scored runs with it. They had a lot of first to thirds. Yeah. They had doubles. They did hit home runs, of course, too. But the reason they put up big numbers, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 runs was not all on home runs. It was because they scratched runs across too.
Yeah.
Or they put a 2-strike ball in play that snuck through a hole because of the shift. And then the next guy hit a home run, where it seemed kind of like Tampa Bay hit a lot of solo home runs, right? They just, they were like 1 run at a time. They weren't able to put those big innings together because they weren't putting balls in play as much.
Yeah.
Now, maybe the Dodgers pitching was that good too.
Well, the Dodgers, for the record, they hit the most home runs in 2020, 118 as a team, but they had the second most RBIs at 327. Okay. Runs per game, most in Major League Baseball in 2020 after 60 games at 5.8. So I think that expands on your point and makes more of an argument where, yes, they hit home runs, but they also scored a lot of runs and they knocked in a lot of runs without that home run.
Yeah, I mean, I just think of the small, and don't take me for a small ball guy, but I mean, I don't know. Betts had 2 or 3 times where he scored from third base when the infield was in.
Yeah, yeah.
On choppers, on weak ground balls.
Yeah.
But if those guys strike out there, those runs don't score, that's an out, and maybe that third hitter doesn't get up, that ends up hitting the home run, or whatever it is. So I just felt like the Dodgers kept innings alive. And I feel like some of their guys, I mean, look at Jock Peterson, right? Everybody knows he can hit a fastball.
Right.
He's still got fastballs to hit. He never misses them.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't miss them.
Yeah. And I think, not to get off on a Dodgers tangent, but I think a lot of that has to do the base running you mentioned. It has to do with player development. Their player development system right now is top notch in all of baseball, and it's been like this for at least 4 years. Their player development system has been phenomenal. And, I mean, they teach you that
They
in
really
player development.
Yeah, they really take care of their players too. They eat much better than most clubs.
Yeah.
Their spread is not your typical spread. It's not the clubhouse guy. I'm talking about in the minor leagues. It's not the typical clubhouse guy putting out peanut butter, and jelly and some white bread, and like they have catered food with the right amount of macronutrients, and they travel a little bit better, and it's just a better development platform. That's where it starts with. It's maybe not quite as good as an SEC nutrition, because those guys really get taken care of well and eat really well, but for the minor leagues, it's crazy how much better the Yankees are pretty good too, but how the Dodgers made that. I have a guy that works for me at the lab, Steven. He's the pitcher in the Dodgers organization. Poor kid didn't get to pitch this year, right? Because he's a minor leaguer.
Sure, yeah.
But just a great kid, and he's like, it's the greatest minor league system to be in. He says, I don't know if I'll crack the big leagues with them, because they're so deep in the farm system, but I don't mind spending my first 3 years with them and then getting out with somebody else, because but I mean, nobody has ever said that. I've never heard anybody say that about the minor leagues.
Yeah.
That it's really not that bad. And then I read something recently, it may have been on MLB Trade Rumors, about the changes in the minor league, the bargaining agreement, and how they're going to have 2 buses next year.
Yeah.
And instead of 1 bus where everybody's crammed in, one of those buses has to be a sleeper bus, something like you can't. I mean, I remember we would play a game. We'd get done at 10 o'clock at night. We'd shower. We'd eat something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
We'd get out of there at 11. We would drive 7-8 hours overnight just in a regular bus. And then we get to the hotel in the morning at like 6 o'clock in the morning. They'd get us checked in, which was the only good part. We'd sleep for 4 or 5 hours, and then we'd go to the game. I mean, that's just what it was like.
Yeah.
And I think that things are changing in the minor league system, which will help with production, player development, and not being 70, 80, 90 games into the season being like, oh my God, I need an off day.
Yeah.
How many more months do we have? And when it's to grind like that, hot in the summer, it's not bad when you're a big leaguer.
Yeah.
But when you're a minor leaguer, that's a really long, rough season. 140 games.
They don't make them like they used to, right?
No, they're so soft now.
Nah, they're all soft.
I had one of those rafts. I remember I bought it like Walmart. That was the greatest store ever. When you're minor leaguer, you get anything there.
Still is.
So
by
I bought
the way.
one of those.
Still is. They have great specials.
Still is. So those floating rafts you get at the pool. They were gray.
Yeah.
Gray on the bottom.
Sure. Yeah.
Clear on the top. Yeah. And they were long. They were probably 6 feet long and a couple feet wide. Well, I bought one of those, and then I would blow it up, and because I'm a large human, right? And then I would lay it on the floor, like in the aisle. And then I would sleep on that overnight. Well, the problem is it's so hot because they're made out of plastic.
Yeah.
That you'd wake up sweating. People would step on you all the time. It was miserable.
Yeah.
But
why don't you get a pull-out bed? Or I'm sorry, not a pull-out, blow-up mattress. Oh, well, they had no plug.
No
outlet.
Well, there's no room on the bus. It had to fit in the aisleway.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so this was bus sleep. This was overnight bus sleep.
Yeah. There's a story, I think maybe it was when BJ Upton, Melvin, is he Melvin now? I don't know. But it was when the first Upton brother came up with the Rays, BJ. I think he's the older one, right?
Yeah.
When he first was coming up in the minor leagues, I read a story. He was on this team. I forget which team it was. But the bus broke down, and it was like in the middle of the day. It was really hot, and the bus didn't have any air conditioning. So when they got the bus going again, they didn't get the air conditioning back. So then they were really hot. It was extremely hot, and they couldn't open the windows. It was, So they don't make them like again. They don't make them like they used to.
No, that's a rough one.
How many former minor leaguers that you played with, or guys that who spent so much time in the minor leagues, looked at that story or heard about the new accommodations in minor league baseball and said, "Damn it, you got to be kidding me."
What could have been 2 buses? That would have been the greatest thing.
I was born in the wrong generation.
We're on generation. We had, it was so odd. Like the Latin players. I remember. I wish I could remember his name. He was like my first buddy when I got there, and he spoke. His Spanish was so bad that the other Latin players couldn't understand him. And so he was the guy like I would try to communicate with, and we would just end up laughing at each other. But back then, headphones. There weren't like good headphones,
Right?
so the music that was played was for everyone to hear.
Yeah.
We didn't have personal listening devices.
Right. You had Walkmans, right?
The Latin dudes. Yeah, maybe we'd have a Walkman, right? The Latin dudes had like a boombox. Yeah. So the back of the bus was a party, man. I mean, you had great Latin beats going on, but come midnight or so on an overnight trip, you kind of want to like shut it down, and then it would get, confrontation, and it would get exciting.
Yeah. By the way, that still goes on. Latin players still bring the boombox into the clubhouses now too. That's still there.
The clubhouse is okay. The bus, no good on the bus.
Yeah, and I've noticed that players nowadays, and maybe this was, I don't know, maybe it's that OCD part of baseball players, and I do it too, but they listen to the same song over and over again, or they listen to the same music over and over again in the weight room. And, yeah. My office is outside the clubhouse in the weight room, and you hear the same song over and over again, literally for like 6 hours.
There's, they like that song.
Saxophone Man or something, and it's like a 10-hour song. He just plays the same beat over and over, over and over again. Anyway,
you could hum that. Between pitches.
Oh, it was stuck in my head. It was stuck in my head for days. Yeah. Let's get back to the topic here. So, when you're approaching accounts, how much do you take into account where you are as a hitter, and how does that help set up your approach for those different counts and what they might be on that day?
Yeah, so it depends on how you're feeling. If you're feeling good, you're in a good stretch, right? You're seeing the ball pretty good. You can be a lot more selective.
Yeah.
And so, I might start with have my guys start with the day of, hey, we're going to start out being aggressive, and then so now speaking, I guess I should speak more in the hitters. The hitter's mindset is, let's be, maybe aggressive early in the count. We don't know who this pitcher is, so
yeah.
Let's go back. Let's go to like a youth level. Youth baseball, youth softball level, not, where we don't have all these metrics, right? We just have, there's this guy or girl on the mound, and she's, kind of an average, player. It's just not overpowering.
Yeah.
We don't know yet, right? The game is just starting. We have no idea who she is. She's throwing strikes in her warm-ups.
Yeah.
So we're going to get in there, maybe the first inning, and, I'm going to want my leadoff person, they need to take a pitch or two. We need to see what this person's going to do. But, thereafter that game, everything becomes like a dynamic approach where, okay, now all of a sudden, maybe the leadoff hitter got on. So now the number 2 hitter's in there, and they're, a right-handed hitter, and the second baseman is playing at double play depth, right, pinching toward second base, and the first baseman is holding on the runner. Well, I have this huge hole over there. Mm-hmm. So maybe as a number 2 hitter, I'm thinking I'm going to look for something middle away. I'm going to keep my front shoulder down and in longer. I might step towards the plate a little bit. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go into right field because I know even if I get on top of it, it's going to be a base hit. We can go first to third on this. That's going to be a great inning. Yeah. So that's my mindset as a 2 hitter. So maybe that happens, right? I get a fastball away. I hit a hard ground ball through the right side or a line drive into right field. Mm-hmm. Now we're at first and third. Now my number 3 hitter is up, and I'm like, okay, you need to drive something, right? I don't want anything defensive on the ground. I don't want you to hit into a double play. I know that a double play will get a run in, but we don't want to kill this inning, right? We got 2 runners on. So now I'm like, okay, I'm looking for something maybe up in the zone, right? I'm going to look for something up in the zone. I'm going to hit something, far, I'm going to try, because worst case scenario, now I get under it and it's still a sac fly. So, that's the difference between one hitter to the next. One guy's looking for a ball middle of the way to shoot through the right side because he's a number 2 hitter. That's his job. Mm-hmm. Number 3 hitter's job is to drive in runs. They have to have that mindset. I'm going to get something out, up in the air and hopefully drive something into the gap. If it gets caught, at least we get a runner in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we still have a runner at first, and the next guy can, maybe he'll steal second, or maybe that number 4 hitter's, going to, he can set up an inning with a double or a home run, if all works out well. So my dad used to tell this story about how sometimes counts will change your approach. So he said, pretend it's the it's the ninth inning. It's a tie game in the ninth inning, and there's a runner on first base.
Yeah.
And you look down at your third base coach or your manager, and he says you need a bunt. So you're like, okay, I'm going to bunt. I'm going to preset my bunt. I got to bunt it towards the first base side, run around first, third baseman's crashing. Maybe there's a wheel play, whatever. So then the pitcher throws it in the dirt.
Sure.
Wild pitch. Now the runner goes to second base. You look down at your third base coach, and it's like, okay, you're not bunting anymore. I want you to, hit a ball to the right side. So now you change your mindset. Okay, I'm not going to bunt. I'm going to look for a ball out. If I'm right-handed, a ball out over the plate. Or if I don't have less than 2 strikes, I got to try to stay inside something and hit a ground ball. I got to play pepper with the second baseman. That's my job, right? Mm-hmm. So the pitcher comes set, and then he balks, right? So now all of a sudden, he hadn't even thrown a strike yet, right? So now all of a sudden, he goes to third base. You look down at your third base coach, and he's like, and the infield comes in. He's like, okay, all you need to do is hit a fly ball. Mm-hmm. So now I'm changing my mindset. Okay, again, now all I got to do is get a ball in the air. I got to maybe look for a pitch up, go look for the bottom half of the ball. So that's one scenario, one at bat where that hitter had, maybe 3 or 4 different thoughts depending on the situation that had changed around him. And that's why we have to be smart. We have to learn the game. We have to know the game. We have to watch games on TV. Hopefully we have coaches that are, able to relay that information. They don't just tell us what to do. That's one of the problems I have with and this with coaches is, with catchers, they micromanage catchers.
Sure.
Right. So catchers just look over, they know what pitch, and then they call the pitch. They're not thinking for themselves and learning the game. So, obviously the best coaches are the ones that teach those players. I know in college, we wanted to get guys that had good coaching, right?
Yeah.
They know the game. They know how to round bases correctly. They know how to, pick up the third base coach when they're rounding second base. They know they have a feel for the game. But a lot of times kids are just, showcase robots now, and they don't have a feel for how to play the game and how to, make the ball do different things. I only know how to make the ball go high and far. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, every situation doesn't call for that. We need to be a complete hitter.
Yeah. So going back to what you were saying there for a second about when you're recruiting kids, when Mizzou was recruiting kids, you were looking for those little things. Maybe not those more tangibles that stick out so much, but the little things that you may not have to teach, like picking up the third base coach or rounding bases more sharply so you can limit your steps and get to where you need to get to.
There's so many parts. Yes. Yeah. I mean, what kind of teammate is this guy going to be?
Right.
Right. I mean, we know what your stats are, right? Everybody knows what your stats are.
Yeah.
You go to a showcase and they chart all your stats. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. But what do you look like in the dugout? Are you talking to your other teammates? Yeah. Are you having fun with your other teammates? Do your other teammates respect you?
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories is about Jace Tingler, the current Padres manager, who's a buddy of mine. And when he was getting recruited, when Tim Jameson, when TJ was recruiting him, he's like, geez, who's this guy? He's 5'7", 5'8", and this is when he's in high school, right? So, I mean, Jace got pretty strong, but, he's probably 150 pounds. And he's this crappy guy. So anyway, it's at a showcase. Okay, so it's at a showcase. And it's the bottom of the ninth inning. And he lays down a 2-out bunt to score the runner from third base to win the game. Like, who bunts in a showcase?
The showcase game, yeah.
Nobody bunts in a showcase. Yeah. And TJ was like, I want that guy. That is the most selfless player I think I've ever seen. Yeah. I don't care if he may never play for me, but I want him on the roster because he's going to make people around him better.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he ended up being a really good, really great college player and made the most of his ability and size. So those are the kind of guys, again, you want, there are dudes out there, right? Oh, look at this guy. He's 6'3". He's 195 pounds in high school. He just hit that ball 450 feet. He throws 99 from the outfield. He runs the 6'8". Okay. I don't care if he's a prick. Let's get this guy on campus, right? I mean, he's a dude. Like, we need him, although he's probably going to get drafted anyway. So you have those guys, but you have a lot more of the other guys. To have a good college program, you have to find the right. It's like a general manager. Only you have these guys for 4 years. It's like a GM that's out there trying to find the right mix of personalities and talent college coaches have to do that too. And that's why you see a lot of great programs that, maybe, or big time programs, you never really see them flourish because they just have talent and a ton of talent and a ton of guys that are only going to be there 3 years, or they're going to drop out because they didn't start. It was their freshman year and they were the, macho man coming out of high school, and all of a sudden they're not as good as the junior college guy that got brought in because he's 2 years older or has more experience. And then he gets pissed off and he transfers out and he doesn't stick around. So you have to be very careful for that too, is you get all these guys with big egos that are really good, but not everybody's going to play their freshman year. You only got 9 starting spots. So it's a fun, it's a fun layout of people and personality and talents and finding the right formula to make everybody successful. And some college coaches are just excellent at plugging in all the right people, and then they stick with it, right? So, and then they have those people and everybody's comfortable. And then there's some coaches that on a daily basis or a weekly basis are trying to find that right formula of talent and players and who does well. And it's fun to see because I've seen both sides. Like, this guy looked better at practice, or this guy, versus, hey, here's the dudes. Let's just plug them in and let's see if they'll be successful. I don't know which one's right and which one's wrong.
That Chase Stingler story is great. Just goes to show you that everybody wants to date the 10, but there's plenty of beautiful 7 and 8s out there. That is the truth.
That's exactly right. And 2s are good people too.
Of course.
You're the problem with this country, Jim.
I am. Lay it all on me, baby. But it goes to show you on a serious note where people like yourself coaching at the collegiate level with professional experience and growing up in clubhouses and whatnot, you have already sort of you have that scouting background, but now you can scout in terms of recruiting and get the right guys rather than those showcase type players that may be drafted out of high school and may go on to, I guess, stupidly sign with an organization.
Yeah, and they could admit sometimes that's what they need.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I have a lot of good friends that joined the military when they were 18. It was the best thing they could do because they were on a bad path, and the military just knocked that out of them and gave them direction and created leadership, and they flourished as human beings, and as executives in large companies because of the military. And I think the minor leagues can provide some of that too. I think the college game definitely provides some of that, for that young kid coming out. So yeah, it definitely is. I get to see things, from 360 degrees. I get to,
right.
I can evaluate, okay, here's raw mechanics, right, on a screen.
Yeah.
Here's raw mechanics on a screen. Okay. So we take that, and then I can watch a player move and react in a game setting, and that's a lot more fun for me. That would be like step 2.
Yeah.
And then the other one is, personality and how does that player mesh with other people. That's the hard part because a lot of times you don't see that until they get on campus or they sign and you have them in an organization. But that's the tough part, but that's where you have to do your due diligence and make the right calls and call the travel ball coach or call the high school coach or call the kid's hitting instructor or pitching coach. What kind of person is this? Nobody's ever going to say anything bad.
Yeah.
But when people call me all the time, like, what do you think of this player? And I can't lie to them because if I say, oh yeah, he's a great kid. And then he shows up on campus and he's a punk, then none of my other players that coach is going to be like, well, Epstein, he's not honest with me. So I'm not going to recruit any of his guys anymore.
Yeah.
So, it's you have to be truthful. Like, this is the issue that may come up, great talent, but there is a hard-headedness here, a tendency to do this, or, I mean, most of the time you will have zero problems with this kid. Like, he's not going to get arrested.
Yeah.
He's not going to underage drink. He's not going to party all night. Like, he's a really good quality human being that's going to make people around him better because he works really hard. Those are my favorite goals. May not have the most talent, right? Doesn't have the highest exit velocity. But because he doesn't have the highest exit velocity, he works twice as hard as everybody else to compete to where he is today. And he's still going to hit balls over the fence, but he's going to scrap his way to doing that. And I think a lot of college coaches prefer players like that. Number one, they don't have to risk them signing out of high school.
Right.
Number two, kids always get bigger and stronger when they get to college. But that work ethic, that is really tough.
It. Yeah.
I mean, you can't make that. You know, I've seen lazy players that just kind of show up to practice.
Yeah.
And you try to motivate them to have them work extra, and then they'll do it for 1 or 2 days, and then that's it. It's just not in their DNA.
Right. Yeah. You become a private investigator when you're recruiting. Kind of like scouting.
Absolutely.
You're kind of like scouting.
You do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Be sure to like and subscribe. Good stuff this week. Like and subscribe to the podcast. New episodes every Monday at 9 a.m. Check out our YouTube page, the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast, social media at Jim Tara at Epstein Hitting, and our email address, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com, for any questions, concerns, or topic ideas. Let's get to a listener question. It comes to us via jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. It's from Joe in Orange County, New York. Joe says, Jim, great job with the podcasts. My question is for Jake. Do you teach, Jake, and or recommend a no-stride approach with 2 strikes as long as a hitter counter-rotates and has the front foot open at least 45 degrees and drops his heel? Again, that is from Joe in Orange County. Good question, Joe. Thank you very much.
Reminds me of Orange County Choppers. I used to really like that show.
Never watched
that show.
No.
You never watched it?
No.
Oh, the dad and the son would always make fun of each other. It was like me and Big Mike all the time.
Okay. I've never watched it.
It's an old show. Anyway,
maybe I'll
do I
YouTube
teach it? I teach it on occasion. I typically don't teach it. Talking about the no-stride approach.
Right.
Not to say that this is right or wrong, but I teach it when someone has terrible timing.
Okay.
Like they can't stride to save their life.
Mm-hmm.
So we just take the stride out. And he's exactly
with
right.
2 strikes or overall? Are you saying with
overall,
2 strikes? Okay.
Overall. I'm talking about overall.
Okay.
Yeah. I usually don't change. From stride to no stride.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, maybe if somebody's in a slump really bad and they needed just a different feel,
mm-hmm.
I would do that. But I don't typically do that. You're either a no strider or a strider.
Yeah.
Is kind of how I do it. Now, the reason is because it's different.
Sure.
It's different. It's like learning 2 golf swings. Do I do one where, turn my shoulders more, or do I do one where I turn my shoulders less and take, more of a whatever? I don't really want 2 necessarily different feels. But again, that's at a higher level. If you're at a young level, maybe that's really easy. I will tell you that Mizzou implemented that recently, because I still talk to those guys regularly and have some players I still talk to. And it was rough the first year doing it, but they did notice a decrease in strikeouts this year, since they were back. They've been doing it in the fall.
Okay.
And I don't know if they do it with all players. They might just do it with, more of the table setter kind of guys. So
okay.
Personally, I don't teach that because I feel like we're, not that we're giving up, but we're not in control of our body if we have to do it. It's kind of like a last hurrah. I know I have 2 strikes. I'm going to strike out, so I better do a no stride to try to put it in play. And when I saw it in action, what happened was players ended up being really early. And with 2 strikes, that's the worst thing you can be early. And the reason they're early is because they're not taking a stride. Right. Yeah. So they're still reacting like I'm still moving at the same time. I still am loading into my back foot. But because I'm not picking up my foot that takes time and putting it down, I end up being quicker. So maybe that's good on pitches middle in.
Is that a myth, though? I mean, is that kind of a myth that you're quicker that way? Or is it just kind of maybe to keep the head more still and shorten up?
The myth is that you actually have less moving, or it's not a myth. The idea is you have less moving parts.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's less things to go wrong. But, if I'm waiting longer, I'm going to do something with my rhythm to wait longer.
Yeah.
So what happens is when we have 2 strikes, what do we usually do? We usually early run our front foot, right? Like that's what 2 strikes, we strike out, run our front foot. We get fooled by off-speed pitches. So now all of a sudden I'm doing something that's going to make me be quicker to the ball. All I got to do is drop my heel. Right. Sure. So now it's like, oh my God, I got to wait super, super, super long because I don't have my stride to slow me down. Now, vice versa, maybe a stride is jumpy
Yeah.
And that's what makes people get fooled. So I think you can try it. There's nothing wrong with it. So don't, the question to me was, do you teach it or do you tell your kids to do that? And I don't. That's not, but some people do. It's just something that I choose not to do because I feel like it complicates things. I feel like I can take a really slow, easy stride, and not everybody can, with 2 strikes and still be defensive.
Yeah.
Versus just getting the foot down early, because I think it's hard to rep that out in games. We've been taking a stride so long, all of a sudden now we're going to take an early stride or something like that. Anyway, time will tell. I will say I watch big leaguers and copy them for the most part. I feel like you copy the best in the industry. And there are a couple guys that do get their foot down early. I can't think of them right now.
Bo Bichette is one.
Bo Bichette
with
is
2
one,
strikes, yes. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
he doesn't stride.
Yeah.
He does the no-stride approach.
He does the no-stride, yeah.
With 2
so I like there's nothing wrong with it. It's I would say it's comfortable for the player. And on a personal note, I I started the year doing the no-stride in college once, because I worked on it all winter and did great. Was hotter than a pistol for about 20, 30 at bats. And then it wasn't comfortable. So then I went to a regular stride and then I got hot again. So you know what? Everybody has kind of their own idea, but the no stride is definitely not a bad thing. It's limiting in that you won't create as much energy and ground force, but I would say do what you want to do. If you're comfortable teaching that and your players are comfortable doing it, then do it.
Yeah, teach its own. Well, we got a great month of November shows. On November 30th, we dive into proper winter training. On November 23rd, we'll present a mechanical breakdown series, and this one will be fun. We are dissecting the swing of Pete Rose on his birthday, which happens to be on November 23rd. I can't wait for that one. But next week, we circle back and revisit our Player Development Series, Volume 2, and we discuss contact points for different pitches in a variety of locations, plus contact points for different types of pitches. That is coming up next week. That'll be a fun one as well.
Yeah, really good stuff. All those. I'm looking forward to Pete Rose, too.
We've got a great November upcoming for the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. Did I miss anything today? We got to a lot. We were all over the place, but we... put it into context.
We were. I thought it was excellent, actually. And it did. That Pete Rose reminds me of a meme I saw that said, "If
I know where you're going. Yes.
AJ Hinch are allowed to manage again, then Pete Rose should be allowed in the Hall of Fame."
Wait! Don't say anything. Wait! Hold on. Before you give your opinion, don't give it on this episode. Wait 2 weeks.
No, I'm not going to give it on this episode.
Wait 2 weeks.
I thought that was a really fascinating meme.
Yes. It was by Baseballer, I think. Yes. Well, 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks.
I'll forget by then anyway.
No, I'll bring it up. I'll have it.
Okay, you better write it.
I'll have it on the format. 2 weeks.
Okay.
All right, that is next week. Next week, though, we're doing our Player Development Series, Volume 2, discussing contact points for different pitches in a variety of locations. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.